And welcome to Habs Unfiltered. I'm your host, Blaine Putvey, and I'm joined now by my co-host, Treg Wilson.
Hello.
Matt Smith, he might be joining us a little bit later in the episode. He was super busy. He slept in a little bit because he'd been traveling all over northern Canada, defending our sovereignty and hanging out in hotels.
Air Force.
The sacrifices the Air Force makes is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I know. And it probably was like a cheaper motel than they're used to.
Not a 4-star.
Because it was up north. It's probably 2.5.
Yeah, it's a 5-star up north. Hanging out, watching the Aurora Borealis. Oh, the Northern Lights. The poor guy.
I know. No.
Suffering. That is why he's a hero.
Yeah. He deserves the Queen Jubilee.
Yes.
Not you, Blaine.
Not me. No. Actually, yeah, I was just happy to get that. I didn't get it for work. I got it for the volunteer work I do. So that felt good.
Yeah, good for you. Oh, I mean, you wouldn't get it for work. You don't do any, but it's good that you got it.
Point.
It's good you got it for your volunteer work. I'm proud of you.
I do a lot of stuff at work, like delegate and then disappear. Oh, look, there's jobs. You guys do this. I'm going to be over there napping. That's why they pay me the big money.
Yes, the big money.
Big money. All right. So before we kick it off, we are now, we're recording, it's Sunday, the 6th of November. We're entering Veterans Week. So on Friday coming up, it's Remembrance Day. So this entire week, veterans are going to be going around, going to schools, talking to kids. People will be sharing stories. I'm sure History Channel will have all kinds of really good shows replacing the aliens, ancient aliens bullshit with some actual history. So, what we're asking is wear a poppy, check some of this stuff out, learn a little bit more about what's been done in the past, and give 2 minutes of your time on the 11th.
Just watched a Netflix movie. It's a remake of All's Quiet on the Western Front, which gives a look.
The German one.
It gives a look at the German side of World War I. Very good movie. Very well done. So, like I say, it's a remake of the original from, I think, the 80s. And anyway, if you want to see a good Saving Private Ryan from the other point of view, different war, but it's a really good movie. I highly recommend it.
Yeah. My go-to is the Bridge on the River Kwai.
Alec Guinness.
Oh, yeah. It's a classic. It's a classic. And of course, there's always Band of Brothers.
Oh, here's Matt.
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, please welcome the one, the only, Matt Smith.
He's sort of here. There he is.
There he is.
Oh, hey.
You look well rested.
Yeah, something like that. Good morning.
We did not make fun of you at all.
I'm sure you didn't.
Not once.
Okay.
More like 12 times, but not once.
Okay. Well, I'm ready to go when you guys are.
Oh, okay. Well, now that Matt's here, for this episode, we got a lot of stuff that we can talk about. But what we're going to do is we're just going to talk a little bit about the first 10 games of the season, the Vegas game, where the Canadians are at. We'll talk about some issues that have come up in the NHL and I guess the issue that we've seen come up with the Toronto Maple Leafs and why they're such gigantic wusses. You think that there's some good reasoning behind that. So anyway, well, let's just start it off with the Canadiens side of the house. So last night, Saturday night, the Canadiens played against the Vegas Golden Knights, who they're on a tear. They're one of the best teams in the league right now. They're a deep team. They're well built, and the Canadiens fell way behind, but then they made the game that much more entertaining by climbing back in. I want to start with you, Treg. What you saw in that game that you really liked, and maybe something you just didn't like.
Well, I liked what I see every game from the Canadiens. No quit. They always seem to want to come back. I like the fact they were in the game till about the 11-minute mark of the third period, and then it kind of just went all. They scored 3 quick goals, and that was kind of the game. I gotta say, what I really like about Montreal is that Caulfield, Doc, Suzuki line. Caulfield, Suzuki together have 16 goals out of the 34 Montreal has scored, so they're scoring 47% of the team's goals. But then again, that's what I don't like. Problem is that's the only line that's scoring. So if they don't get goals or offense from that line, nobody else seems to be, there's a lot of guys out there working hard. Slafkovsky, Monahan, even Druin. I thought Druin had a very good game last night, forechecking, back checking, playing the game. Whether I would have had him and Huffman out there in the final minute with the net empty, I don't think so. But I love how they finally have one of the better lines in the NHL. It's working for them. It's creative. Doc looks amazing. He ended up being the perfect guy for that line, even though we thought he was going to be the 2C. Don't think he's going to be the 2C anymore. I think he's going to be the winger on that line, at least for this season. So yeah, I liked Allen's game. Like I don't blame Allen for the few goals that went in the end. I mean the tip, and then they whatever happened on the 5th goal there. But I thought he had a hell of a game. He kept the team in it until again it fell apart. But again, they're up against one of the better teams. I think they've won 7 in a row now. Montreal, I think, has lost 3 in a row. But this is what we expect from Montreal. We're not expecting them to be contending for a playoff spot. They're actually probably better than most people thought they would be at this point. They're pretty much right at where I thought they would be, a little under 500. I think that's where they're going to stay. So yeah, everything was positive in the game. Everything so far this season has been positive for Montreal, win or lose. The team is exciting. They're creating offense. They're keeping the fans engaged, and they're not getting blown out of the water by anybody.
Well, and that's the thing. The team, I know a lot of people were kind of concerned that the Canadiens are going to drop out of lottery pick contention here. And we've been saying it, all three of us have been saying it since before the season started. We're not expecting them to be in the top 5 at the draft, maybe top 10. And there was some concern because the Canadiens looked so good in those first few games. But you brought up the reasoning behind why I think they're going to drop off, and they're a one-line team.
Mm-hmm.
While there's a lot of really good pieces, they don't have enough to really, well, they should have enough to make a couple of lines, but only one line's really showing up.
The other lines just aren't gelling. I don't know if they're just not getting the right combination together. I don't know. Personally, I think Slafkovsky should move up in the lineup. He's been improving every game. I think if you can put him on a line with, say, Monahan and Druid, I think maybe you might have something going on there.
At least with Monahan. Monahan's been there every game. He's consistent. He's producing. The game against Vegas, he had a couple of opportunities that he had generated that just didn't get converted because, again, like you mentioned, his line isn't gelled. So I wouldn't mind having Slafkovsky up there.
No, move him up. Like it's a time. I mean, they started now. St. Louis said from the start he's going to start him slow. Yep. Get him used to the NHL ice. Get him used to the speed. Start him off slow. So this kid averages 10 minutes a game.
Just over 10.
Just over 10, and he's on pace for 27 goals. So
Over an 82 game season. Yeah.
over an 82 game season. So, I mean, that's good, right? Like for a rookie,
It's
considering
okay, I guess.
last year's rookie goal leader only had 24. So, for him to be on that pace, now, if you give him a few more minutes, put him on a line with a good passer, a good puck controller, which Slafkovsky also is, by the way. Slafkovsky's issue right now is he doesn't know when to shoot or pass. That's his biggest issue. He a couple of times in that Vegas game he had a chance to shoot, he didn't. He looked for the pass, except when he scored, and that was a hell of a pass by Caden Gooley, by the way, to get it over to him. So if he can get on with a veteran like Monahan that can, say, hey, you just get open. You know what I mean? I'll work the puck, you get open, and maybe throw, Anderson or Druin. Or Anderson's not a great passer, but he can shoot the puck. Slafkovsky is a good passer, so maybe that can get Anderson going if he's not suspended for 1 to 3 games.
We'll get into that in a little bit.
Or maybe even Druin. Druin's a really good passer. And like I say, Druin seems to be engaged. He just doesn't seem to be getting the puck on a stick or getting himself into situations where he can create anything.
It looks like he's still playing a game from like a few years back before he started getting all the injuries.
Yeah.
It's just not.
I don't know. He's an enigma to me this year because he doesn't look like he's playing bad, but he's not generating anything either. So, like, he seems like he's trying, which is different from before. Like, he's trying to get the puck. He's battling on the boards. He's forechecking, but he doesn't seem to create anything when he does anything. So it's weird. And
what about you, Matt? What'd you see in the game last night?
So I saw a team that was in the game up until pretty much the same time as Treg said. But I agree with everything that you said. It's great that Suzuki is playing well, and Caulfield and Doc and that line is gelling so much. But I agree 100%. It's the only scoring line that they have right now, and you're seeing guys that are playing with some effort. I agree with everyone that you named off. I'll throw Gallagher in there as well. The guy's motor is going. It's just there's no finish. And I do agree that Slafkovsky should move up 100%. I think the thing that probably upsets me the most is the fact that in general and in last night's game, a lot of the mistakes that were made that led to goals were really Montreal's own fault, and they came from a lot of their veteran players. And we've seen that quite a bit. Like you could point at a young defense, you can point at some of the youth within the lineup. And yes, they've made their faults throughout the year, but a lot of the times it's been these veteran players that have either not stepped up to the plate or they've made their own mistakes that have led to some of these games. And like, I think that Kovacevic should probably be back in the lineup the next game, because I think Weidman made a few too many issues. I don't know what's going on with Hoffman, but he just is not engaged whatsoever. And I know the guy's got a shot, but he's not demonstrating it this year. And the plays just go to die when they get on his stick. And I tweeted out prior to the game that it's going to probably be a long game for Monahan, being on a line with two guys that don't really give too much effort. And I agree that Drouin had a better game on that line compared to, say, a guy like Hoffman. And I think
I had a better game than Hoffman, and I wasn't even there.
Yeah.
The funny thing about Hoffman, not to interrupt you, but
That's great.
Analytically, he's one of the better players on the team. If you look at his analytics and natural stat trick, he's almost tops on the team, and it makes no sense because you watch him. It's like Mete. It's like Victor Mete.
Yeah.
Analytics are great, but
That's right.
you watch the game and he looks terrible.
That's why I'm an eye test
looking
guy.
at the end, yes. But if you look at the analytics, still, it's not just the performance with the Corsi 4 and all that. It's deployment, and you look at who he was paired up against. He did not face off against the top two lines, and that's why his numbers look better. Yeah. Even though he's flubbing his shots, he's flubbing his passes. I noticed at least twice, probably several more times, where he he'd take a puck at the top of the circle, try to do a quick little spin to, like pick up a little bit of like a spin for deception, like a half spin, and then wanting to maybe, I don't know, make a pass across or a quick shot, but it just flutter off his stick directly onto the blade of a Golden Knight.
Right.
He tried to do a one-timer from behind the net. Think about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With a minute and a half left in the game, net empty, he tries to do a one-timer from behind the net.
Silver lining, though, he would have hit the net.
Yeah, the back of it.
Which, I mean, normally he's hitting the boards behind the net. So that's
true.
We're moving up, stepping forward, so to speak. So over the start of the full season here, we're looking at the entirety of the season thus far. Clearly, the deceptions for us would be Hoffman and Drouin's lack of production. But is there any other downside? Matt, I'll let you go first.
Right now, for myself, and I don't know if we're going to get into this later on about a possible trade, anything like that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Okay. It's the fact that you're having to deploy these players throughout the lineup, and it's not necessarily taking playing opportunity away from other players. It's kind of a revolving door, and I find that it's been kind of the downfall of the bottom six is the fact that you got Armia back, and I don't think that it's going to take some time for him to get his kind of get his gel back into the lineup. But right now, like Pizzetta's played a game, Pitlick's played I think 6 or 7. Dadonov's played 8, and he's out injured. Drouin's been sitting. Hoffman's been sitting, and like you can't really say that any of these guys have really went out there and performed at all. It hasn't really been the same for the defense because up until the other day, it's really been the same defensive core that's been going out. I think that would be for myself. I think that would be their biggest their blunder, I guess, or their biggest downfall at this point in the year.
It goes back to like Rem Pitlick's had a terrible year. Rem Pitlick's terrible this year.
He has. He has not looked up to.
He can't make a good pass. He can't hit the net. He's not skating like he did last year. He's not getting himself open. Like I like Pitlick.
Is he in and out of the lineup? Is he in and out of the lineup because of that, or is he playing like that because he's in and out of the lineup?
Well, see, that's where you got to look at it, and until they make a move to free up the space, because I mean they got 15 forwards. So there's 3 guys sitting every night.
Yeah.
I know St. Louis wants to keep the young defenseman on the team. He wants them to stay. I think they want. I don't know if we're going to get into Slafkovsky later with his games or anything, but Slafkovsky technically only has 1 more game, and if he plays it, then you lose. His ELC won't slide. And I
don't think it was going to anyway.
No, I don't, but that's the talk. That's the social media talk right now. Oh, send him to Laval. We don't want to lose the year. You're going to lose the year regardless. Like keep him where he's at.
Because
he's improving.
Playing in Laval, there's no slide.
Well, there is for him because he's European. He will get the slide if he plays. If he plays more than 9 games in the NHL, he still gets the slide if he goes down to Laval. But to do that, you have to make room. And in order to make room, you either got to bury a $5.5 million contract in Laval.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, if Dadonov or Hoffman get put on waivers, no one's picking them up.
No.
Right? It's probably same with Drouin. Nobody's picking any of these guys up if they go to Laval. Now, whether they'll report to Laval or whatever, that's a different story. It doesn't really matter. From what I hear from Marco D'Amico, Hughes is on the phone constantly trying to make a trade. Blaine, you mentioned that Washington is looking, although Pierre LeBrun said they don't think it's that serious as at first. But a move got to be made. Something got to be done. in order to make room. Because you get Mike Matheson coming back in a few weeks, 3 weeks, I think, 3 or 4 weeks. So that means a defenseman's going to have to. You're not going to have 8 defensemen on the team. It's just not going to happen. So could we see Weidman or Savard, or is one of the rookies going to go to Laval? Which I don't think. I think, well, actually, I do think. But is that the right move for that young guy after he's played so well for the first 2-3 months of the season? And let's be honest, the rookie defensemen have been playing better than the veteran defensemen.
Some of them, yeah.
It's true.
I'll give Edmondson a break. Edmondson had a terrible game in Vegas.
He
gave the puck away twice at the blue line. One led to a goal. One led to a breakaway save by Allen.
Yeah.
But
he also had some really good moments.
He did, but he's only played 2 games. He's only played 2 games this season, so I'll give him a break on that. But I mean, Savard, I'll give him a break too, because he's blocking shots like crazy. He's playing against the top lines every night. He's playing higher than he should be. He's a 3rd pairing defenseman, not a 1st pairing defenseman, and he's playing with Gooley, who's a rookie, and he's trying to help him in the zone and stuff like. So again, to me, Weidman's. I mean, we're getting on a different subject, but Weidman's the odd man out, in my opinion. If you want to keep the young guys in Montreal when Matheson comes back, you're not getting rid of Matheson. That's for sure.
No, I was excited. I was excited for him to get into the lineup, and then you get you kind of get the call that during a preseason game he gets injured. It's like, son of a bitch.
I wasn't surprised, to be honest. I mean, there's a lot of mileage on him, and he's a big guy. His back is an issue now, and when they say it's a back issue, that always comes back, always. Right. I mean, you look at PK Subban. He had back and neck issues, and look how his game just nosedived. Yeah. And it's because of his injuries, not because he got old. It's because of his injuries.
I mean, it's going to be, if you look at the team, you look at Huffman and Drew and the way you're playing, are you going to be any worse with Yolonen and Harvey Pinard on the team?
Well, you're going to have guys. You're going to have guys that are going to be putting up a hell of a lot more effort. And like, I was looking at a guy like Heineman, who I thought that played quite well during the preseason, and then had the unfortunate injury to his hand. He might have been one of those first call up type players. The problem is, like, you look at the guys that aren't playing in the lineup right now, and I think or not that are playing in the lineup, but are kind of the ones that are in the shuffle. I think they've played a combined 35 games, and they've only put up 4 points. And those points have come from Hoffman and Drew. One has 2 assists, the other has a goal and an assist. So the bottom 6 is really not doing anything for the Canadians right now. It's more of a liability than anything.
And you would think in a shuffle like that, they'd be playing harder. You
would think so, yeah.
I need to be put in every night, especially like a guy like Grim Pitlick, who's technically in his second year, second full year. Yep. He'd be saying, hey, man, like I deserve to be in this lineup. And nobody's really playing like that. I will say Druin is putting a little bit more effort in, but he's just not producing. And when you have a guy as aged as Druin is, if he's not producing, then doesn't matter what type of effort he puts in. Same with Huffman.
Yeah, and this kind of makes me
more. I think it's more you gotta move some of these guys out, not for cap savings, not for more production. It's to open up those spaces for the young players, like you mentioned, Trey. Yolonen is lighting it up in the AHL right now. Mm-hmm. He's leading the Laval Rocket, and he's playing great hockey. He deserves to be called up. But you can't get a call up because there's 15 frickin' forwards.
Right.
There's less ice time to be shared. Slafkovsky, we talk about giving him a little bit of larger role. Well, he can't get in on the power play if all these other guys are in there too. So if you move a couple of these guys out, it forces St. Louis to rely a little bit more on these younger guys. Now, I'm not saying he's doing a bad job of it, but what he's trying to do is trying to give the veterans as much as he can to make themselves show that they have value. He's doing it, I think, to help the player, but also to help management, because management wants to move these guys. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. They're getting the leeway, but they're doing nothing with it.
Well, and that's just it. Like me, before the season start, we were all excited about Dadonov and Druin and Monahan. We were thinking, oh, trade deadline. If Druin can make a comeback in his contract year, Dadonov can score his 20 goals that he normally does in a season. Monahan gets his game back. Man, we could have all these prospects and first round picks. As it looks right now, the only one of any value right now is Monahan.
Yeah.
That is it.
Yeah.
He's the only one that has a chance of getting a first round pick by the deadline.
Or a B class prospect.
Yeah,
Whatever.
but
whatever. But I mean, you're looking at a first round pick. A chance.
Yeah.
The other two, you'd be lucky you get a bag of pucks.
If you eat half their contract.
That's right. And I think any move that Hughes, and I do think he's going to make a move within the next couple of weeks, he
has no choice.
He's going to be keeping money, or he's going to be taking money back, one or the other.
Yeah, he's going to have to take a contract back with Dadonov on the IR until Monday. Tomorrow's Monday the 7th, so he's on the IR until then. Once he's back, the Canadiens roster goes to 24. Someone's got to move. So do they do a paper move of moving one of the young guys down, like Slafkovsky as a forward? He can go down without clearing waivers, or one of the young defensemen, or does he have something where he can move Dadonov out, but he has to eat half the contract and take a contract back in return?
Yeah, he's in a tough situation. Like, if anything, Dadonov turned out to be not a great trade for Hughes. At the time, yes, it was a good trade. It was an expiring contract. It really didn't matter. He got rid of Weber's LTIR, yada yada yada. But I mean, it's not turning
Grand
out
scheme.
the way.
It's still not that bad of a deal in the grand scheme of things.
It'll be a good deal at the end of the year.
Yes.
All right, when he's off the
that's the
books.
goal.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think when they were making the deal, I think the idea was, if he has a pretty good season, look what we can get at the trade deadline.
Right.
And right now,
it has not worked out at all.
Now, if he can get rid of him without taking money back, or maybe just hold on to half of his salary or whatever it is, then Hughes is the fucking genius. But I mean, the Kirby Doc trade is turning into be one of the most geniuses moves in the last. I mean, I thought Berge was good at trades. This was a steal.
Yeah.
It takes me to pleasant surprises, and he was one of my pleasant surprises so far this season. Right now, Doc is on the top line on the wing. I think this is going to last for a little bit, but it's a temporary fix. I think he's going to end up back at center, because their plan was to make him a center, to try him out at center, and they need a full season of that. So him on the wing right now on the top line, that's great. He looks really good there. And in the future, that might be his role. But right now, the team is going to keep him. They're going to try and keep him as a center. But he is one of my surprises, my pleasant surprises this year, because he's on pace for 70 points. His career high before this was, I think, 25 or 28, 29.
I think it
wasn't even 30
last year.
Yeah. So 70-point season, that's kind of a breakout season.
A little bit.
And you can tell he's got more to give on top of that. So if he turns into a 70 to 80-point winger, that's still a huge win on the trade. If he turns into a 50-point center, still a win.
I'm going to disagree with you, Blaine. I think they're going to keep him at the wing. I know what you're saying, but I think because they can get a very good center in this draft, even if they pick top 10.
I think you're stupid. How could you disagree with me? That's stupid.
And you also have Beck coming up. I think Beck could be in the NHL next year, and he's going to play center. So do you really need Doc as your number 2 center? No, you don't, because I think Beck, or whoever you get in this year's draft, could be your number 2 center.
Oh, absolutely.
And Doc still hasn't mastered the face-off yet. So although I get what you're saying, and I'm not against it, I think they found where they want him. I think if this continues, they're not going to break it up until it starts slumping. Until they start not producing, they're not going to break it up. And right now, just Caulfield and Suzuki alone, it doesn't look like they're going to slow down. I mean, they're both on pace for 90 points. So I think they're both on pace for 50 some odd goals. I mean, when was the last time we had a 90-point scorer? Kovalev, I think, was our last 90-point
I don't
guy.
even think he hit
He had
90.
89.
Yeah.
He had
89, did he
89.
hit? Okay.
So I think the last 90-point
Naslin?
player was Domfus
Domfus, yeah, 93.
in the
I
late
think he had.
90s.
Yeah. And then our last 50 goal guy was Stefan Richer in the 80s. So, and that was 51.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, I mean, if they keep the pace up, it's only 11 games, but if they keep the pace up, man, we're on.
I mean, Suzuki looks pretty good for a guy who has one of the 10 worst contracts in the NHL.
Oh, I actually tweeted that too.
Yeah. It's funny, you look through that list. Some of those guys on that list are having pretty good seasons.
Yeah.
Suzuki being one, Erik Karlsson being the other one.
Well, let's be honest. When coming into the season, Erik Karlsson's contract looked terrible.
It
No one
does.
knew.
It does. But if we're talking about that and like, oh, they're the worst contracts and everything, like the guy's kind of he's on a bad team, but he's kind of turning back time. And I've never been a Karlsson fan, but I see him put up 10, 11 goals to start the year as a defenseman.
The thing about Suzuki is, where did he come with that? Like, Suzuki was improving every year he played, and then he comes out and says, "Oh, this is a terrible contract." Well,
the contract didn't even start.
Yeah. You're basing that. Yeah. So anyway,
his thing was his model had Suzuki's contract being $2 million overvalued. So he should be about a $5 million player. But the season he used to make that assessment, he was on an ELC, so he was $4 million overvalued. So this guy Dom, he at the Athletic, I'm sorry if I'm messing up your name. I messed that one up. That's pretty bad. But his model is flawed, and he states it at every turn in the article. Huge grain of salt. Like, he's trying to do a sabermetrics Vakota type projection. So you look that up. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up sabermetrics and the Vakota predictive program. It was abandoned back in the early 2010s because it was just so bad. But he's using it to project these contracts. And he says, take a grain of salt. Funny thing is, I didn't see a single Toronto Maple Leaf contract in that list. And you can't tell me, nonetheless, you can't tell me that, you can't say, well, maybe Tavares might be a little bit overpaid. Maybe as an honorable mention at 11 or 12, but maybe.
I think what you're trying to say is that Suzuki should have been traded for Wayne Simmons a long time ago.
Norman Flynn.
Because then we wouldn't be in then we wouldn't be in this mess at all.
Does Norman Flynn still have a job?
Yes, he still works at RDS. So you would have traded him for a Wayne Simmons, and suddenly Suzuki's contract would be one of the best kept secrets in the league.
Of course.
But so that makes Suzuki and Caulfield are pleasant surprises as well for me, because they're producing so well starting off.
Yeah.
And it's not just the production. Caulfield's game overall has been a massive increase over last year. It's not just him scoring. It's his defensive positioning, his engagement in the game, his intensity level. He has really, really stepped it up. And I think what we're looking at is the emergence of an actual NHL star player wearing a Montreal Canadiens uniform. It's been a long time.
Yeah, he's slowing the game down when he goes over the blue line, and guys are either backing up, they're giving him the space that he needs, and then he's able to create and be able to kind of use his edge work to kind of make the plays that he needs to play. It's not just okay, I'm going to come in on the rush, I'm going to shoot my shot. Oh, it went in. Oh, it didn't go in. And then he skates back the other way. Like he is really developing into a more complete player, and I love to see that with this guy, especially when you have as good of a passer as Suzuki and now Doc on your other wing.
Well, Doc's there. He's creating the space that we thought Slafkovsky or Anderson would do, although he's doing it better because he can actually win the board battles. And nothing against Slafkovsky because he's just young, but he's winning the board battles. He's doing what he needs to do to get the puck open and get the puck to Suzuki and Caulfield. Now, you say you're seeing a star being made in Caulfield. I think you're seeing a star also being made in Suzuki.
Yeah.
On that 4-on-3 power play, Suzuki purposely went out of the zone to create speed to come down on that play, knowing that he was going to get the puck back. Now, if you ever notice our power play, Suzuki's always looking for Caulfield and Caulfield's always looking for Suzuki. I don't know if anyone's ever noticed that. However, they're doing it in such a way that, they're also watching where the defensemen are.
Right.
So if Caulfield's looking for Suzuki, Suzuki's looking for that open space to get the pass and vice versa, which is why I think the power play is improving. It's because they're changing the looks that they're getting. And now when you have Suzuki and Caulfield as a threat, they're not sure which guy to cover more, which before they were just trying to get this. Let's get it to Suzuki. Let's get it to this, or not Suzuki, Caulfield. Let's get it to Caulfield. Now I had this little argument yesterday about who quarterbacks the power play. I believe Suzuki quarterbacks that power play because Suzuki's the guy who brings the puck in, and Suzuki's the guy who's looking to move the puck into the open position to get the shot. Now, most people will say, "Oh no, it's the defenseman on the blue line." It is not. It's Suzuki quarterback in the power play from the boards. I was called a clown for saying that on Twitter yesterday, but okay.
I don't see why they needed that. I just call you a clown anyway. I mean, look at your wall. It looks like a man's junk on there.
Hey,
the old phallic symbol.
I'm a bodybuilder.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. You can say that you are now an actual honest to God bodybuilder.
Anyway, having said that, so I think you got two guys stars in the making. I think you're going to have, I think maybe not this year, but I think Caulfield's going to get his 50 goals. I'm not saying it's going to be this year. I think Suzuki's going to get his 90 points, maybe 100 if they can improve that offense, the secondary offense. Things are changing in Montreal. It's no longer the defense first type whatever. And then you have on the back end, you have guys like Gooley and Harris and the young guys, Jack-Eye. They're all going to be not top NHL players, but they're all going to be effective NHL defensemen. Gooley's probably, I'd say in 2-3 years, could be in the Norris talk if they take away all the offensive points. Let's have a Bobby Orr award and I don't know, a Ray Bork award. A best defensive
Lyle
defenseman,
Odeline,
whatever. Like something. The Josh Georges award.
Speaking of awards, I want to award Austin Matthews of the Toronto Maple Leafs the Wuss Award of the season. It's early, but I believe he's earned it. Now, I know the arguments are, hey, he's a 60-goal scorer. He doesn't need to be fighting. And I'm going to agree with that. He does not need to be fighting. But he also, because he's not supposed to be fighting, he should be starting shit either.
No.
All right. I'm going to say this. Cockney went after him.
Yes. And I give him credit. I give Matthews credit for going toe to toe with him for a little bit. But
now, no, Matthews did not have to fight him, but at least engage in the scrum that's going on around it. Well, so that was my issue. My issue wasn't the fact that he didn't fight. My issue was the fact that he basically just went, "Okay, you guys got it."
He initiated the contact though. He's the one that gave the slash. So like I can understand why Konechny would be frustrated and be like, "Come on, buddy, you're gonna give me a slash? Fucking do something."
Well, actually, Konechny cross-checked him first, and then Matthews slashed him.
Well, he didn't cross-check him first. He went in, and Matthews is in front of the net. Konechny gave him a little shoulder-to-shoulder shove.
Correct,
And then
yes.
Matthews cross-check back, slash, cross-check.
Typical
And
hockey.
then,
Typical front net hockey.
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Then they
And
went
then
in the corner.
Matthews, poof.
Then they went in the corner, and Matthews put his hands up, went like this, and then Bunting came running in because Bunting's some kind of hero. And then as soon as Bunting,
I mean, he was backing up his teammate.
Yeah, and perfect.
Yeah.
Giordano came in, did the same thing, and then as soon as them two came in, Matthews just like, all right, I'm just gonna skate away. Ha 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 ha. Look at you. You came after me. Now everyone's gonna beat you. It's like the bully in the schoolyard who has two other bullies that protect him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm gonna start shit, but then I'm just gonna back away and let these two guys, it's like, I don't know, it's like the mafia hit guy who the mafia boss, because he does kind of look like a mafia boss who, gets his goons to do everything for him after he starts everything and he just walks away. I didn't mind the fact that Bunting Giordano jumped in.
I like that.
You protect your star player. And I don't think Matthews needs to fight. I don't care how big he is. He's not there to fight. He's there to score 60 goals and win hockey games by scoring. However, don't disengage from the altercation. Grab someone. Guy comes in late, grab him. Hold on to him. It doesn't matter what you do, right? But at least be engaged in what's going on. Don't just back away and let everyone else take your shit. That's the issue I had with it.
Yeah.
I find it's a very selfish thing to do when you do that. And this isn't the first time he's done it. He has done it often.
Look at the playoffs with the Canadians.
Ben Sherratt,
yeah,
shaking around. That's that's what he did. And I get it. You're trying to draw a penalty, but at least engage. You don't have to fight.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like
a lot of people right now are shitting on Mike Rupp for coming out and talking about this. And I have just a small little paragraph from his speech about it, and he says, I quote, "He doesn't have to fight here, although he's the one who started the whole thing as far as going after him in the corner. But you can't just stand there and be okay with your teammates coming to your defense and you just laugh about it. We've seen this movie. I've seen it time and time again with Austin. Playing the cool card doesn't work. It doesn't float. It may look cool on social media, but in that locker room, at some point, it will wear thin."
And then you have Leaf fans saying, "Oh, well, he's a shit disturber." Well, if he's a shit disturber, at least engage. Yeah. Engage in your shit.
That's right.
Right? Like,
yeah. Brad Marchand is a shit disturber.
But he also engages.
Marchand is also fought.
And he can engage. And a lot of other people tried to bring up, Nathan MacKinnon doesn't do this, or this person doesn't do this. Nathan MacKinnon will stand up for himself. He doesn't need to because he's got other guys on his team, but he'll stand up for himself, and so will the majority of the star players within the league.
Sidney Crosby's got to do a few fights.
Yeah.
Although he didn't have to.
He didn't know the other guy didn't know that he was in it, but but it is what it is.
But it is what it, and again, I'm not saying Matthews has to fight, but at least be engaged in the altercation.
That's what it kind of comes down to.
Right?
Have a little bit of pushback. Right,
I don't care what people say. If you played on a sports team and you have a player that does that, your locker room will start losing respect for that player.
Yeah.
I don't care. They'll still jump in for him.
Yeah.
But they'll start losing respect for that player. I've seen it many times on sports teams. I played on many sports. I've seen it many times. Yeah. Same with the guy who flops around on the ice all the time pretending he's injured after every goddamn hit. Stutzel, I'm talking about you. You know what I mean? They lose respect. Now, of course, they're not going to go to the media and say, "Oh, well, fuck, Austin got to start picking that shit." They're not going to say that because, I've seen the threads where people go, "Oh, well, his teammates don't care." They do care.
Yeah.
They are going to care.
Yeah.
Right? And this is the issue in Toronto. Toronto fans think their stars do no wrong. Right? Although I will say Fulton Reed and a couple other guys, they weren't happy with it. You know what I mean? They said, "Hey, man, that's not right." Again, nobody's saying he needs to fight. Just engage. Grab a guy. Yeah. Do this with your glove. Do the Kotkaniemi and punch him in the face with your glove on. Right?
Star players do end up, because they're engaged in the play, they do end up fighting once in a while. Even Wayne Gretzky with Dave Semenko and Marty McSorley on his wing, still has a fighting major to his credit. It was a horrible fight. He did terrible, but he was in it. Like, he was willing to engage. He got his ass kicked.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
It wasn't much engagement, but he was there.
He was there. He was
Right.
willing to engage.
Yeah.
Unlike Matthews, and like you said, a team sport, you're doing this not just for yourself, but for your teammates. You're standing up for everybody. And I mean, this guy's not going to fall if he throws a couple of punches with a glove on. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
or grab a guy's jersey, push him down to the ice, anything.
And this is a microcosm of why I think that team is not going to do anything in the playoffs, is because their star players aren't willing to do the work necessary.
Nylander doesn't even go in a corner.
It's true.
Let's be honest.
He thinks the rink is round.
He won't go in a corner. He won't go in a corner.
He thinks the rink is round.
I mean, the only one right now who's really giving it his all is Tavares.
Yeah.
But I mean,
if you want this,
Toronto has the talent, so they're going to make the playoffs.
They'll make the playoffs. But what happens when they're in the playoffs? They constantly choke. And why do they constantly choke? Because they're constantly hiding behind referees and other players, hoping someone else is going to do the work for them. Until they're willing to step up.
Right. They bring in their snarl at the trade deadline, and they give up. No, that's what they do though. They bring that in. They bring in these more physical players, or these more hard to play against players at the deadline, and then they give up their futures for it. And then it goes nowhere.
Or they trade their futures to get rid of a contract. One of the
That too.
But I mean, I don't know. Toronto got 2 years left, and if they don't do anything, they're back in rebuild mode anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Matthews at Mullet Arena
with his mullet.
Yes.
And that cheesy mustache.
It'll probably be a skullet then, because he's losing all his hair.
Yeah.
So.
Well, speaking of Phoenix, that brings me to the final point that we were going to talk about in this episode, and that is the Mitchell Miller signing. So he was a Phoenix draftee. The Coyotes dropped him after the draft, when everything came out of him bullying and abusing a handicapped African American at school, a younger kid. He was picking on him. He did some horrible stuff, said all kinds of racist crap. So Arizona said, fuck this, you're out. Bruins, however, said,
by the way, for multiple years,
not just a one-time incident. It was, like you're right. It was several years. Now Boston has gone out and signed this kid, and I see there's a lot of people upset. Granted, they should be. This kid should not be in the league. But you, Treg, brought up some very good points on Twitter, and you do look a little bit bruised. Was it that bad of a thread? Or?
Well, I mean, I took some heat for it, but because I think I worded it wrong. All I said was, this kid's true colors will come out. So let's be honest here. He's not doing this because he actually feels bad for what happened to the kid. He's doing this because he wants an NHL career. All I said when it came out was, okay, yeah, this kid did what he did. But however, let's look at all the facts first. Let's see how this kid's going to improve himself in the future, and see what this kid's going to do to make amends for what he did. And then if he doesn't do it in the right way, or only does it for himself, his true colors will come out. That's what I said. So basically I just said, hey, let's see how this kid, reacts to all this. Let's see if he's actually going to do something similar to what Logan Mailloux did. Logan Mailloux, from the start, took full responsibility for what he did. His apology to the victim at first wasn't taken very well by the victim, granted, but he cooperated with the police. He him and his agent said, I don't want to be drafted. I don't think I'm ready for the NHL. He was drafted anyway. The London Knights put him into programs that he agreed to and went, according to all reports, was more than willing to participate. Montreal did the same thing. Again, more than willing to participate. He had to pass certain tests. He had to do certain things and reach certain milestones to make himself a better person, to make amends for what he did. The victim was brought in and involved in, or the victim and her family was involved with the entire process. And from what I hear, from what I've read, they had to put their stamp of approval and everything as well. Whether that's true or not, that's just what I read. But with Miller, it seems he didn't apologize to the family or the victim.
He did on Instagram.
He put something out on Instagram, which looks like it was typed up by a lawyer or a agent or something to make himself look, but he's never went face to face to the victim or the family. He's never done anything to try to improve himself.
But his apology did say, this isn't about hockey. Wink, wink.
And for the Bruins to go out and do what they did, and then the players came out and said, what the hell's going on here? I think that's the biggest thing I got out of the entire thing was the Bruins players actually came out and said, no, we do not agree with this at all. And just by them saying that, and Gary Bettman saying he's not going to play in the NHL, but just by them saying that, if that has a trickle down effect to the Bruins minor system, then Miller doesn't have a future regardless. So,
I mean, Bettman scoring some bonus marks for saying he doesn't belong in the league is great and all. But if he said that he was not eligible to play in the NHL, why did Central Registry register his contract?
I don't know. According to Bettman, the NHL was not informed of this before. I mean, let's be honest. Bettman let a guy who never owned a business buy a team in the NHL. So let's the Islanders were bought by a guy who had no money and didn't own anything. So
the legend of Spano.
Let's but I agree. You talk about he'll never play in the league, yet you have the guys like Tony DeAngelo and anyone who beat their wife, they're still playing in the league. Evander Kane's still playing in the league, and there's still word out on him on whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. So come on. And don't talk like NHL is the only league that has these issues, because they're not. I'm looking at you, NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball. So it's a sports thing, and it's something that needs to change. The culture needs to change, and the Boston Bruins players are showing that they're willing to change that culture just by condemning this entire thing. So
even Don Sweeney was like, I don't know, he was wishy-washy. I don't know if I would have forgiven him if he did that to my kid, but here's a couple $1 million.
But since he didn't do it to my kid, everything's okay. This had Cam Neely written all over.
I mean, this just proves that there's some concussion issues there.
Well, maybe he should. Maybe Seabass should kick his ass.
Now, in the Logan Mailloux comparison, we got to keep in mind too, with Mailloux, it was one instance. One time it happened. He screwed up once. It was horrible what he did, but he just did it once. And he seems to have learned a lesson, whether it's not to do that so that he can keep a job, or if he was actually contrite and truly believes he shouldn't do it ever again. Either way.
From the reports from his psychologists and everything, they truly believe he was remorseful for what he did.
Whether you believe it or not, it was a one-time thing. He may, and if he does it again, then that's another issue. But for now, it's just once. With Mitchell Miller, it was several years of continuous abuse.
Yeah, it was like 6 years or 7 years or something like that.
And everyone keeps saying, "Oh, he was 14." Well, no, this started when they were like 8 or 9.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
And I have kids around that that age of 14. I have a 16-year-old. I've got a 12-year-old. Both of them know that it is bad and wrong to pick on handicapped kids and to use racial slurs and abuse other people.
Well,
This argument of, oh, he was just 14 is utter bullshit.
and you got to think too, where were the parent? What was his parents saying?
High
Obviously
fives all around.
obviously they knew about it because the other parent was complaining to the school about it.
My angel.
Yeah. Well,
when
my kid,
when-
I would have
when-
beat
when
my
I-
kid, but that's
when I
just
look
me.
at when I look at the situation, when you take a player that looked like he had some promise, and Arizona gets rid of him, a team that's really, could use any bit of skill in their lineup that they can get, and they got rid of him, for Boston to just kind of swoop in and be like, oh well, we'll give him a chance. Like, you're gonna see the trickle down effect throughout the organization, and we've already seen it with the way that the players have spoke out about it, and I'm glad that they spoke the way that they did. And it really shows that they are trying to kind of take that next step and take this seriously, because it's a move that shouldn't have been made by the Bruins.
But he did say he was sorry on Instagram, so I guess that
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
that fixed. I guess that fixes everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Unreal.
back to my tweet. I might have worded it wrong. I didn't really take it as much heat as I thought I would. I might have worded it wrong, but the point I was making was, let's see what this guy's true intentions are. However, we already pretty much know what they are. So
Yeah.
and they are not to make himself a better person. They're to make the NHL and make money. That's his true intention.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
And someone like that, I wouldn't want near my team, because he doesn't have the team's interest at heart. You're in a team sport. You got to be willing to sacrifice a little bit, be it personal stats or, ice time, whatever, to help your team win. This kid is all about this kid and only this kid.
Yep.
And your true colors come out eventually. Like Logan Mailloux. If he's an asshole, his true colors will come out as an asshole eventually. They'll come out. You'll see it.
Yep.
Because once you're an asshole,
So far,
you're always
no.
an asshole. Trust me, I know.
I get it. I'm a dick. I
You are-
live by the Team America World Police worldview.
Yeah.
There's assholes, there's pussies, and there's dicks.
You are what you eat, Blake.
That's right. Wait, hey, just once, twice.
$20 is $20. When you're
Got the
in a
t-shirt.
foreign port, need beer money, $20 is $20.
$20. All right, but so clearly Boston fucked up. Mailloux is now fallen behind on the whole NHL hatred scale.
Yeah.
So
He's a
maybe
distant second.
this is it's a good deal for Mailloux now, because he's no longer in the spotlight for bad behavior. The next guy came up to bat.
And then when the two rape cases and the names come out on that, whoo, that'll be interesting. That'll be
the Hockey
interesting.
Canada ones.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
That'll be huge.
Woo.
That'll be
Goddamn.
interesting to see what happens in the NHL when names start dropping.
Yeah.
Depending on who
The
those
world
names
is
are.
going to burn.
It's going to be very interesting.
All right. Well, that does it pretty much for the show. We're going to have an announcement soon about what we're doing with this podcast. There's some big things coming. I think it's going to be good for all of us.
Big
Yeah.
things.
Almost as big as Treg's biceps.
Almost.
Almost. Definitely bigger than those chicken legs he's standing on.
Almost. Yes, definitely. I don't do this. I only do legs once.
Leg day. Yeah, leg day's a waste. No, but there's going to be some fun stuff coming. We've kind of maxed out what we can do with production and with just about everything. So we're going to have some stuff come up that should help us take this show to the next level and hopefully bring a better product to you guys.
I got it.
So
I'm gonna bronze myself up like Treg did.
Only do one though. Once you do the second
Yes.
coat, it's orangey. So
Okay,
the
so that's what
first
I'll do.
coat's-
Every
first coat's
time
pretty
we do a
bronze,
show,
second
I'll be
coat-
bronze now, and I'll just flex the whole time. Right? I'll be like, well, okay, man, what was your flex of the night? And I'll be like, Nick Suzuki was fucking incredible. Right?
And I promise I will never spray tan.
Yeah.
Never.
Again, if you're gonna do it, just do the first coat. It looks good. The second coat, you look like a Oompa Loompa. So
And that's not
always go
that's
with the
not a
spray
jab
tan
at you,
with a-
Treg. That's not a jab at you. I'm really proud of you, bud. I
Thank you. Appreciate it.
really am. You did incredible work.
except for the spray tan.
I didn't do the spray tan, but you have to get it done. So
All right. Pretty much does it for this episode. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening. Please share the episodes, tell your friends, force them to listen. If you have to, pin them down and press play. We just want as many people as possible
We just want
as money so that we can make some money.
Yeah.
Freudian slip there.
Well, yeah, it's time. I want to be able to afford a pint of beer at McLean's Pub on Peel Street.
That's gonna cost you $200.
Or at least a pint of beer.
Yeah, or one of the big
The towers.
Ooh, the towers, the giraffes. Yeah, that'd be nice. But anyway, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I want to thank you for listening. Keep sending those comments in. Keep attacking Treg on Twitter. Maybe if we make enough money, we can buy the $8 Twitter verification for the Habs Unfiltered episode accounts. And then we will put out all kinds of weird and crazy things.
Yeah, 'cause we can say
you don't know.
Say what we want. Free speech.
That's right. But anyway, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And remember, if you're talking about it, so are we.